Yo, welcome to Mistress of Reads. I'm dyslexic. It's always made it very hard for me to read and very hard for me to write. I get moments where I just freak out because the letters, the numbers, everything looks weird. I would have never found out I love to read if it weren't for Tamara Pierce's book. So I'm going to give a shout out to Tamara Pierce and her Alana series, because that's the only reason why I can read. And it also made me want to write sometimes too. Now, there's this website out there called Wattpad. Wattpad is an online writing and publishing. Think of it as a training wheel before Kindle, or if you're a hobbyist, it's the kind of cool, hobbyist stuff that is just neat. I've never been a snob, and it doesn't matter if you have one view and it's possibly yourself or millions of views. I will read whatever I read. I don't care how many readers you got. If I like what I see, I'm gonna be a super fan, And when I say super fan, I mean super fan. Straight up. Now, think like that girl who broke into Chris Brown's house and spent like 3 days in the bathroom with like just a robe and a prayer. That kind of super fan. I'm a super fan. Define fanatic. So, this kind of site appeals to me because when I first started reading self-published books, there was this wave of self-published books that had like prostitutes as like the main character, and it was like an awakening, and I wasn't really that into romance at the time, but there were so many like meaty, interesting characters who, got their little romantic day, or maybe had their heart broken and it didn't win out, for them, and they followed these illogical paths, and it was just, I really, really enjoyed the early days of self-published romance because it was so non-formulaic the way these people wrote. And I remember reading it one day and thinking, I realized why these publishers rejected them. Not that they weren't good books, but that they didn't fit into the formula of what they knew how to sell. So, people, got their carpet bags and sold it them damn selves, And again, that's that whole, I don't care if you have one view or a million views. I don't care. I'll regulate on the whole rainbow. I will fuck that shit like Lucky Charms. Magically delicious. I don't give a fuck. I just like to read. So, a site like Wattpad has always appealed to me, and I give respect for both the writers and the readers for taking chances and whatnot. I dig it. And the new tag system is actually pretty good for finding those sideway reads that are in the same genre and doing that sort of fun reading that you might not find these books otherwise. I think Wattpad still has some major problems, such as basic search functionality isn't there, and Wattpad's too big of a company and too old of a company to still be having search problems at this point. Basic drop-down menus and basic things like that need to be a part of your OS. Don't launch a tab when, a while back, I'm having this conversation like you totally been around forever, but you weren't just checking this out because I put it Wattpad review. But Wattpad has this program called Tap. Now, Tap was, I don't know if it's popular or not, but it kind of took tons and tons and tons of air out of the room when you really wanted them to fix certain functionality, basic functionality, so you could actually help them help themselves. They instead released Tap. Tap was one of those, where's my super suit? Where's my super suit moments? Because you wanted apps like After Dark, which is like a romance app that's on iPhone. You wanted them to create it for Android, which is the bigger platform. You wanted them to do certain things that would make logical sense to address 14% of the market instead of gambling on a market that's not even, Yeah, there's free apps to do what they're doing, what they're trying to offer paid service for. So you just sort of just constantly just sigh. But back to the review. They've made some nice changes, and I think that they're on the path. I still hold to the belief that until Wattpad starts highlighting the reader, they will not be as successful, because there are certain people who will love to explore and find these really unique writers who will probably even stay in the Wattpad ecosystem and not travel to Kindle or elsewhere and give Wattpad quality product. But to discover those Wattpad writers, you're going to need Wattpad miners who are willing to mine up those nice, books and write reviews so you understand why these books are interesting or intriguing or different or well written or really well potted or dealing with diverse subjects. Because I can see a world where Wattpad stands next to Kindle as a place to actually read and have these entry-level locations for authors, and then maybe even having authors stay within the Wattpad ecosystem. I can completely see a day like that, and it's well within the Wattpad bag of tricks, but Wattpad has to stop defeating Wattpad. It has to be cognizant of the people who are actually on the platform and using it, so it doesn't end up like, say, a Vine who stopped using it to stop listening to their creator base, stop working on making sure their creator base was taken care of, to the point where their creator base went on boycott and en masse left, which collapsed the Vine system. So yeah, so what do I give Wattpad? I still give it a 4 stars. It's better than Kindle in a way, because Kindle KU is very pay to play. If you have more money than time, Kindle is a very good system. They've got reviewers and people and all kinds of things ready to take your money, and if you have good product, you're probably going to get noticed if you have enough money. Whereas Wattpad, if you have more time than you have money, then you can hustle your book up, even if it isn't that good, into a place where it gets readers and you start acquiring a fan base. There's also people who are learning, and it's a great learning environment to just, take the small steps into understanding how people interpret your words that you read, and it's free. So I didn't know I was going to be doing a KU versus Wattpad, even though I have this whole entire thing outlined, not necessarily written like a script, but outlined. So I guess I'm doing a KU versus Wattpad. Weirdly enough, I vote Wattpad. And that's mostly because it isn't really pay to play as much as it's a little clicky, but it isn't pay to play in the same way KU is. Kindle Unlimited. As an author, as a reader, I pick Kindle Unlimited because there is consistency, if not quality, but there's a consistency of quality on Kindle that you don't get on Wattpad. And there's also a consistency in what rises to the top is going to at least be edible. You can, take a couple bites out of it and be okay. Whereas Wattpad, what rises to the top isn't necessarily a reflection of the writing prowess of the person, as much as, because it's a social media platform, both the writing and social media prowess of the individual. So did they get within the Wattpad HQ click people? Or were they part of some other click on Wattpad? Or did they just go one view at a time and hustle it up? Or do they have amazing writing? You really don't know when you click into that book, because unlike Kindle, there is no media base for Wattpad to know what book is good, what book isn't, because there is no downvote. So there's no steps of quality to know what's what before you go in. And the thing about reading is it's not like watching a YouTube video where you're done in 5 minutes most of the time, if not less. Whereas Wattpad books, you know, you got to read at least 2 chapters to know if the book's good. Some people load their 2 chapters up with 20 minutes worth of book instead, and you don't know if this book is for you or not. And you want to give that author a chance. And if you're like me, I tend to read through books. So you get trapped in this, you know, time suck as you give people a chance and they continually disappoint you because they have somebody else who wrote their blurb. Well, the blurb looks good because they got somebody else to write it, and then you click in, it's not that great of a book. Or the blurb's very weak and it is a great book. Yay. So, yeah, just mixed bag. So, as a reader, definitely Kindle. Definitely Kindle over Kindle Unlimited over Wattpad. For a writer, I'd say Wattpad over Kindle EU, depending on where you are in your writing prowess. So, I want to thank you for joining me. I want you to check out all my other stuff because, you know, every time you check out all my other stuff, a fairy gets an orgasm. I'm serious. Just, you know, because they don't need wings anymore. They can just run on orgasms. I want you to check out all my other stuff. I'm going to try and change my day to Mondays and Tuesdays, but I'm not in love with Monday and I'm not in love with Tuesday. I just know I can't be on Saturday anymore. And I want to thank you again for joining me. Peace out. See you next review or next read.